I've recently been going over kind of some older Call of Duties, trying to put together some story videos, trying to put some evolution videos together, but there was one thing I realized as I was going through all of these Call of Duty games. There's a lot that I simply forgot about. And in fact, we're gonna go through every single Call of Duty game, starting with Call of Duty 4 and going through them all, giving you one thing that you probably forgot about in each of these games. But quite honestly, I could make videos with each individual Call of Duty game going over probably 10 things that you actually forgot about the game, whether it's like some tiny detail, a weapon, a game mode, or anything in between. As you're gonna see through this video, there is a lot that you probably forgot about in the various different Call of Duty games. And if you'd like to see me dive deeper into an individual Call of Duty game, going over 10, 20 things that you may have forgot about those games, hit the like button and let me know which game down in the comments you'd like me to cover. But in case you don't understand what I'm talking about, let's start going through the various different Call of Duty games, talking about things you probably forgot.
50,000 people used to live here. Now it's a ghost town.
Starting out with Call of Duty 4, there's a lot from this game because it's older, whether that be little weapon quirks or little things that you may not know about certain maps, but the one that I wanted to focus on here was a little mode called Cage Match. Now, this was very briefly in Call of Duty, but the reason why it was removed may be the thing that you don't know. If you're ever in a lobby and you saw HS with a question mark as a clan tag, that meant headshots, because in this mode, it was 1 versus 1, meaning mono e mono, you against one other person. But if you saw someone with that clan tag, or you heard them in game chat say headshots, you knew that back and forth you guys were going to be using whatever weapon you needed to get camos for, and you were going to be giving each other headshots back to back. I realize how dirty that sounds, but anyway, moving on to the next game. Call of Duty World at War was World War II based, but one thing that you may not know is it actually had one of the most realistic and one of the most unrealistic campaigns all at the same time, because the intel that you could find in game was something known as death cards, something that was actually been quite real in the military. But what these did was interesting, because the campaign within Call of Duty World at War was indeed co-op, but you could use these death cards to kind of make changes to the way that the game was played. For example, one of them was called Thunder, and when you got a headshot, it would cause enemies to explode. Another one was called Cold Dead Hands, and enemies never drop weapons when killed. So it was things that would make things more difficult, harder, and just change up the way that the campaign was played as a whole. And on top of that, within co-op, it actually kept track of your score that you got through various missions. And this is something that I would love to see come back before. We saw this in like Halo 3 with Skulls, for example, and really Call of Duty hasn't done this since. There's been intel, never quite anything like this. There was a lot that I tried to filter through Modern Warfare 2, whether I wanted to do like a glitch like the Javelin glitch, but the one that I went with here is kill streak stacking. Now, if you haven't played Call of Duty in a long time, you may have forgot about this. In Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, your kill streaks would stack. So say, for example, you wanted to earn a nuke, which was 25 kills in that game. All you needed to do was get 7 kills, and you may be wondering why, and that is because if you got 7 kills, that would give you a Harrier. If you called in that Harrier and it got you 4 more kills, that would then give you 11 kills, which would give you a chopper gunner. And then with that chopper gunner, you could just get kills with that chopper gunner all the way up to 25 kills, because it wasn't just weapon kills that count towards kill streaks. It wasn't score streaks, it was kill streaks, and your kill streaks continued that. This was something that I think made the game approachable to all, because every single person had a chance to get a nuke in a game. If you just got those 7 kills in a row, it was possible that you could get a nuke. And I think this is something that Call of Duty is missing to this day, and I would love to see kill streak stacking return in the same way that it was there. Now in Black Ops 1, the thing that we're going to go with here is Call of Duty points. Now you're probably thinking we already know what Call of Duty points are. No one forgot what those are because microtransactions are absolutely everywhere. Well, this is what you would be wrong about. COD points in Black Ops 1 were actually the way that you unlocked items, unlocked attachments, and pretty much unlocked everything. As you prestige and as you completed various different tasks, you would get Call of Duty points. These points would then be used to unlock weapons, unlock attachments, and unlock various different things throughout the game. But there was also a little known thing called wager matches, where you could go in them and there were things like gun game, one in the chamber, and you could actually gamble your Call of Duty points. And by the way, the most important part about this is you could not spend real world money on these points. You had to earn them in game, period. Then you could gamble them in these modes, and if you finished within the top 3 of that free-for-all match, so gun game or one in the chamber, you would then multiply the amount of COD points that you had and then could spend those in game. This is something that we have never seen again. Now, this is one that I could have used for a couple different Call of Duty games, but if you haven't played older Call of Duty games, this is one that you wouldn't even know about, and that is pro perks. Now, pro perks had been in various different Call of Duty games, but I think they were probably the strongest in this game. And essentially what these were is as you used perks and leveled them up and completed challenges, it would give you a pro perk. So for example, a weapon like sleight of hand, you would reload weapons faster, but the pro ability would allow you to pick up and swap weapons 50% faster than normal. Another example, and the one that a lot of people use in this game, is Assassin. It makes you undetectable by UAV, thermal scopes, heartbeat sensors, portable radars, and so on. In other words, it's like Ghost and Cold Blooded combined. But the pro ability makes you immune to counter UAVs and EMPs, and enemies won't see you as a red dot when targeting you. Extremely powerful pro perk, and this is something that would get rid of and out of the game because of the barrier to entry. They wanted everyone who just leveled up to have access to all of the same perks as everyone else and not have to grind for anything extra. Something that we would really see too much more at all. Black Ops 2, we're going with something really specific, and in fact this was in 2 different Call of Duty games, and let me know down in the comments if you know what other Call of Duty game it was in. And this is a piece of equipment called the Black Hat. Now what this would allow you to do was hack things. You could hack various different pieces of enemy equipment. You could hack your own team's supply drops, so you could steal your friendly's supply drops. On top of that, you could hack enemy kill streaks, so in other words, another way of taking down choppers and things like that. And it wasn't overly used because you had to kind of use them sparingly. But yeah, it's something that we really never saw again, except for one other game. Let me know if you know what it is. Call of Duty Ghosts, we have something that was only ever used in one game, and that's a little something called field orders. If you're ever playing this game and you killed someone and they dropped a briefcase, this is what is known as a field order. When you would pick it up, it would give you a challenge. For example, get 2 kills while laying prone or something along those lines. If you were to complete this challenge, it would essentially give you a care package. This care package would have something inside of it, and some of the things that you could get were map specific. So Call of Duty Ghosts had some of the craziest DLC that we ever saw, one of which was a map where you could get Michael Myers as a kill streak through field orders. That's the only way you could get it. There were other maps that would give you chem strikes and completely destroy the map, essentially nuking it by completing a field order. I think this was a cool idea that really could have been refined better, but never ever was. Advanced Warfare. There's a lot in this game. This could probably be an hour of things you forgot in this game because there's so many little details in this one. But the one that I chose is a little something called score streak modules. So there is this thing in this game where you could pick a score streak. So let's take the Warbird, for example. So you pick this and then you can modify it. And you can put various different modifiers. For example, one of them was called Aggressor. In this one, the AI control Warbird seeks out enemy targets. You could add Cloak. This would add a cloaking ability to the Warbird, making it more difficult to shoot down. You could add Rockets, making it so that would shoot rockets at enemies as well. Now, all of these would cost extra score. So for example, for Aggressor, it would cost 50 extra score. For Rockets, it would cost 300 extra score. So you could get a worse score streak or less score, or you could load it up with these things and make it more difficult to get, but it was essentially a completely different score streak. Pretty cool thing, and this kind of came back once again in one other game of score streak variants, but not to this extent. Black Ops 3, another game that each and every map probably had about 50 different Easter eggs that we could go through, but the one that I chose here, ultra specific, specialist camos. So Black Ops 3 introduced a kind of more hero style shooter to the game where you could get various different field upgrades and specialist abilities and specialist weapons, but each of these specialists would have their own backstory and its own set of challenges. By using these specialist weapons and specialist upgrades and using them in certain ways, you could then unlock camos for each individual specialist operators. I loved this. It was another point to the grind aside from just weapon camos, and this is something we would never see again. Now, Infinite Warfare, there was a lot for me that I had to choose through because this wasn't a game that I played a lot. But as far as this one went, I chose prestige weapons. So prestiging has been in Call of Duty for a really long time, and it just returned within Black Ops 6. But in this game, they had prestige weapons. These were weapons that the only way you could unlock them was by prestiging. They included the McTav 45, the TF141, the S Ravage, and all of these were kind of like throwback weapons to previous Call of Duty games, but the only way you could unlock them was actually by prestiging. Problem is, like we looked at with other things like pro perks, the barrier to entry, people actually had to grind the game to unlock them, and people sometimes don't like that, so this was something that wouldn't really return. But this is something that I liked, and I think prestiging should be more rewarded than it actually is. The one we have to go with for World War II, without a shadow of a doubt, is the headquarters and everything that was inside there. You could have 1v1 fights within headquarters. You could go and call in supply drops and unlock various different weapon skins and weapon variants, which could be a whole other video in and of itself. You could go to the firing range, you could see other people and what their operators looked like. This was something akin to what Destiny had, but this time in Call of Duty. This needs to make a return. This is, I think, one of the greatest features we've ever had in Call of Duty that never came back, especially with the rumor of DMZ making a return. If you took DMZ and added like a market, like the headquarters within Call of Duty World War II, it would fit in absolutely perfectly. If you extracted, you then went to the headquarters, you could walk around the headquarters, go see different vendors, find out different secrets around there. Why haven't we done this? This is one of the best features of all time in Call of Duty, and it really needs to make a return. Black Ops 4, again, a lot you could go with here. Again, another map that had a ton of secrets hidden on its maps. I made a ton of videos back in the day about this. The one thing that this Call of Duty game had that no other Call of Duty game had is manual healing. When you got shot, you didn't just immediately regenerate health like you do in present day and old Call of Duties. You had to manually hit a button, which was generally like your left bumper or your offhand, and it would stim you and you would re-heal. And there was perks that could make it so that you could stim more often, as well as the amount of health in this game being higher than pretty much any other Call of Duty game, having the longest time to kill out of any Call of Duty. These things combined for a very high skill gap on this game, and it was something that I personally enjoyed, but at the same time it was incredibly repetitive because basically every single time you got shot, you were constantly stimming over and over again, which made it so that you were out of a gunfight. It was a very different gameplay loop than we have ever seen before. Moving into the more kind of present day Call of Duties, I call these the Battle Pass Call of Duties, and Modern Warfare 2019, the one that I had to go with here is Spec Ops. Now, there was a bunch of different Spec Ops missions, and you probably forgot about most of these, honestly, or maybe you just never played them altogether. I will say these missions were pretty difficult and pretty good, and also very, very broken and buggy, and I think it's why this probably never caught on. This was this game's co-op mode, and we did see Spec Ops in other Call of Duties as well, but this one was actually incredibly detailed, and on top of that, introduced us to Verdansk before Verdansk was in Warzone. But yeah, it was really buggy, so I think a lot of people just forgot about it. Black Ops Cold War, I'm going with a personal one here. This is the one that I would like to see return, and that is gunfight tournaments. Now, gunfight is currently within Black Ops 6. It is the 2v2 mode where you have 1 life per round, but back in the day, there was a thing called gunfight tournaments where it would give you a bracket, and you had to try to win essentially like a March Madness playoff style bracket. And these were really awesome because every round you went through, you would actually earn rewards. And upon completing one of the gunfight tournaments, you could earn a weapon blueprint. One of these tournaments was added every 2 weeks at the end of Black Ops Cold War. This was amazing. This is what events should be more like to this day, where it makes you play a specific game mode and makes you play differently to earn something in game. I miss these. I love these. I did these even after I earned all the rewards, and I hope that these return one day. And in fact, I think tournaments as a whole should return for multiple different game modes. I think it could work for Search and Destroy. I think it could work for Control. I think it could work for various different game modes, getting rewards for winning in tournaments. I think it would be fun, but hey, that's just me. Now, Call of Duty Vanguard, this is one where I struggled because, again, kind of like Infinite Warfare, it was a game I didn't really play much, but the one that I'm gonna go with here is the campaign. Not because everyone forgets about it, but because personally, I want to forget about it. It was by far the worst story in a Call of Duty campaign. Okay, I'm just kidding. That's not the one that we're actually going to do. But seriously, I would like to forget that campaign. It wasn't very good. But this one, I'm going with a little thing called Champions Hill. Now, they introduced this thinking it was going to be a lot like Gunfight from Modern Warfare 2019. They even did an alpha or beta or whatever you want to call it for this game that was specifically this mode. Now, this was kind of like gunfight tournaments where you would compete against 7 other teams, so 8 teams in total, and each team would have a set amount of lives. If you got killed against any of the teams, you would lose a life, and in the middle, you could buy streaks, you could buy various different things with money that you earned in these games by getting kills or picking it up. It was a good idea. They just never elaborated on it, and it never came to be like literally anything, and no one cared about it anymore, and it just disappeared. The new Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare 2 2022. This game, I'm going with the perk system because you may have forgot this, but the perk system in Modern Warfare 2, when the game was first launched, throughout a game, you had to earn your perks. This is a decision that I will never understand why they did it. But yeah, as you went through a match, you would earn your different tier perks. So your perk 1, you'd start the game off with. Your perk 2, you'd earn about halfway, and your perk 3, you would earn at the end of the game. It was almost like the way field upgrades, or sorry, not field upgrades, specialist upgrades and specialist weapons worked back in Black Ops 3, like we talked about. But this time it was your perks, like just the basic things that we were used to having. I have no idea why they did this. Eventually it was removed, and I'm guessing we're never going to see this one again. And then finally, we have last year's Call of Duty game, Modern Warfare 3, and I chose the get higher events. Now, I don't think that people necessarily forgot these, but I think people forget how good these are. This is an example of an amazing event. It is a game mode that is put into a game for like a week that has hidden secrets, different ways to play it, a leaderboard, things like that, and is there, and you could earn blueprints, you can earn camos for completing them, and then they just disappear. And it's fun for like a week, and then it's gone. And I hope these are the type of events we continue to see more of. I don't need the XP events or the pick up things off the fun things like this, things like gunfight tournaments. That's what I enjoy. And a lot of people, I think, are going to forget those if they don't come back. So yeah, as far as Black Ops 6 goes, there's no point in me talking about what people forget about this game because it's currently what people are playing. But the one that I'm going to go with that I think 5-10 years from now people do forget is Omni movement. I think we maybe have one more year of it, and then after that it'll be called something different. They'll have a new movement system, and 10 years down the road it'll be lost and forgotten forever. At least that's just a guess. Everything else I did forget. But if you'd like to see more videos like this one where we maybe pick an individual Call of Duty game, like let's say Modern Warfare 2, the original, and go over 10 things that you forgot about that game, I think that'd be a pretty cool idea for a little mini series. So if you want to see that, let me know by hitting that like button, subscribing, turning notifications on, all of that jazz. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, peace.
We are reaching for the stars, but we're